From great world building to being some of the best box office hits, here's how the John Wick franchise compares to other action movies. But before that, let's take a look at Keanu Reeves' bold claim about the films. So, in a recent interview, the actor praised the 2014 action thriller and its sequences for being unique. What he meant was that it had the spirit of a small movie and drew us in with the adventure and warmth that it promised. The movies are good for a pretty solid reason. In case you were wondering, the John Wick movies aren't just influenced by independent films. In fact, previously, Reeves even talked about how Japanese movies, including anime, influenced John Wick. The actor also said that the samurai genre was very helpful in making John Wick and its sequels. Mainly because it puts a lot of emphasis on honor and self-sacrifice. The fact that this series took off right away was surprising though, especially when you look at how movies were doing at the time. Cause when you think about it, traditional action movies had been having a hard time for a long time back then. In the 2000s, they did well with movies like the Bourne trilogy, Daniel Craig's early James Bond movies, and more. But as the movie business moved into the 2010s and the MCU took over, simple action movies really hit a rough patch, both in terms of creativity and at the box office. Even though movies like The Expendables and 2008's Taken were able to find an audience, they quickly turned into formulaic, uninspired movies that did not do well at the box office. In the first half of the 2010s, people tried to make spy thrillers like the Bourne series as popular as they were. As a result, there were a lot of bad movies, like Jack Reacher and Olympus Has Fallen. By the time 2014 came around, the genre really needed a comeback. Thank goodness John Wick came out in October of that year. It gave the action movie genre the boost it needed. But it wasn't just about the comeback that the franchise brought with it though. They also grew their audience with each new chapter. As a series, John Wick did something that no other action series could do at the time. The first Expendables movie made just over $100 million in the US, but the next two movies only made $85 million and $39 million. Taken was exactly the same. Its first movie made $145 million in the US, but the second and third made about $139 million and $89 million respectively. Even though the Mission Impossible movies have gotten better and better, the box office numbers haven't gone up with each one. On the other hand, if you look at this franchise, it's done better than almost every other movie that came out at the time. In fact, John Wick's been making money while other action movies have been losing it.
Where?
Here, just below my floating rib. Be sure not to hit my leg. Oh, wait! One may not be enough.
The first movie in the series only made $43 million in the US, but the next two movies were able to make more money because of good word of mouth. Chapter 2 made $92 million, and Chapter 3 made $171 million. This put the two in the category of the top 15 highest grossing movies in the US for 2019. Even though they haven't made $1 billion, the John Wick movies have made a good place for themselves at the box office. The low budgets of the movies also helped them do well at the box office. The first movie only cost $20 million, but the next two cost $40 million and $75 million respectively. Those numbers are pretty impressive in a world where mid-budget movies are almost extinct, especially since most franchise movies cost between $100 million and $200 million, and most other movies have small budgets. It wasn't just the instant success that made the franchise unique. The heavily stylized action was part of what made the franchise so impressive. impressive. Solid performance at the box office doesn't just happen randomly though. John Wick has been so successful because it brought something new to the action genre. Instead of the somewhat static and predictable action sequences that everyone had gotten used to, John Wick really spiced things up by injecting a lot of personality, vibrant creativity, and stylized violence into its fight scene. On top of that, most of the action scenes are shot from wide angles. This makes it easier for us to see and understand what's going on. Not to mention, most of the credit goes to the team behind the show who really direct the magic. I mean, it's true. Much of the series' personality comes from the directing duo behind the first John Wick. The two directors started out as stuntmen and worked on movies like The Matrix, Blade, 300, and the Bourne movies. Both of the former stuntmen made their directorial debuts with John Wick. Having two people who knew a lot about stunt work in charge of the movie made it possible for some of the best action scenes of the 21st century. Stahelski stayed aboard the John Wick series in the years since and directs every new entry. He's also started work on the upcoming Highlander and Ghost of Tsushima films. Leach has kept spreading John Wick's colorful action throughout the industry. After the first movie, he left the series. Since then, he's directed movies like Atomic Blonde, Deadpool 2, and Bullet Train, which just came out. It's not all serious action though. What has set the John Wick series apart from the action series is that they haven't forgotten to have fun with its action and story. As great as the Bourne trilogy was, those films and the number of copycats that followed took themselves a bit too seriously. They were gritty and adult, but they forgot to inject much of the excitement and fun that's needed to make for a thoroughly enjoyable action flick. Even old movies like Die Hard knew that a little bit of humor and cheese can go a long way. Stahelski and Leach took the same approach with John Wick, which is why the series has lasted so long and is still going strong, even though the story of John Wick has some of the super serious action cliches that audiences expect. It also plays with those cliches in interesting and funny ways. For example, a story about a skilled ex-assassin who comes out of retirement to get revenge isn't all that original, but the fact that he wants to get revenge for his dead puppy is truly amazing. It both breaks the rules of the genre and makes fun of its tropes, all while also being a real and understandable reason for Wick's anger in the movie. What really sets the movie apart is the detailed fictional world though, because I've never seen anything like John Wick's mythology. I mean, it's an underworld of assassins with strict rules, old technology, and strange money. In the first chapter, you learned about the Continental, a place where assassins can feel safe, even though it's got strict rules and harsh punishments. The idea of the hotel was so popular with fans that Lionsgate decided to make a prequel series about the hotel. Chapter 1 didn't go very deep into the mythology though, but chapters 2 and 3 introduced blood oaths and showed how big and important the assassin's underworld is in the John Wick universe. It's the way that the franchise builds its world that is so unique and immersive that you'll want to learn more and more about it with each new movie. So really, take my opinion with a grain of salt. But as far as action movies are concerned, I guess John Wick's pretty much it for me. There you have it. That's all for how John Wick compares to other action movies. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.